Howdy.
Howdy.
Okay, so for all those who don't know me, my name is Shalisha Pereira, and I am a master's horticulture student here. And I have the honor to introduce Mr. Brad Abrameit, who will be presenting what would I tell my younger self preparing for a career in the nursery and greenhouse business. So a little about Brad. He's a 1994 to 1996 graduate of Texas A&M University with a BS and MS in horticulture. He is the president of Magnolia Gardens Nursery, and then he leads all functions of the container and tissue culture division, both strategically and tactically. He's in charge in stabilizing, professionalizing, and preparing the business for growth. He's the executive leader, bringing 27 plus years of experience to the horticulture industry to the forefront, driving strategic initiatives, and have propelled the company to consistent growth. A proven track record of successful launches and market expansion, recognized for fostering a collaborative environment that empowers teams to innovate and deliver exceptional results. So now please give a warm welcome to Mr. Abrameit.
Thank you. No, I don't think I read that intro. I asked my HR manager to make a bio intro, and that's what she wrote and sent. So I had to tell her, thank you. She made that sound good. Oh, man. Well, thank you all for the attendance here. My topic today is designed probably more towards students, whether you're undergraduate or graduate, but also towards faculty and staff, just to kind of listen to some of my experiences, things that I thought served me well as I prepared and actually went into my career, and things maybe that didn't, and some of the mistakes that I made and things that I learned and wish I would have done differently. And no matter what stage of life you're in, I think these things apply. So there's going to be some technical conversations in here that I feel like will be helpful, as well as some personal conversations too. My format is a presentation format, but if you guys have questions, interrupt, ask questions. Matter of fact, if we don't finish all the slides, that's fine. So if there's some dialogue, I'm open and happy for that. So anyway, I'm going to kind of go through a little bit of sequence of my life and kind of what got me to where I'm at today. It's kind of my pathway and journey all the way starting back when I was in college and younger, and then things that I would step back and do a little bit differently. So this microphone, nobody needs it in here. Is anybody online? And if they are, can they hear me okay? You're good? It's sounding good? Yeah, maybe. Anyway.
The chat button. Yeah.
Yes, Johnny's saying yes.
Okay, awesome, thanks. Okay. Now I got to figure out how to press the right buttons. I was pressing them earlier.
You move the cursor to the.
You actually have to with the arrow, you gotta hit your PowerPoint and then it'll click.
Click one time.
Me?
No,
With the mouse.
with the mouse.
We've all done this.
Now? There we go. All right. So I was just saying earlier, before everybody got in here, I was used to my first presentations being the slide carousel, and didn't have to worry about all this stuff. But so my younger self, this is back, I guess, into high school, perhaps before I came into college. I'll never look like that again, young and spry. But one point I wanted to make is, we are who we are today. You can't change that, but you can certainly change what you do and who you are moving forward. But the point I wanted to make is you are who you are, accept that, know who you are, embrace that, because a lot of people are who they are, but they don't know who they are. And that was me, and it still is me. I'm learning about myself. And it's taken me 53 years to know myself. And if you leave with any message here, figure out who you are. And then you can grow into who you want to be and adjust, right? So I grew up in Luling, Texas. So it's a small town on Interstate 10 between Houston and San Antonio on a fairly large farm. I was blessed to be exposed to all parts of agriculture, from livestock to plants to row crop, gardening, you name it, orchards. My father worked for an ag really demonstration farm. It was a private farm that was endowed to really serve the public and bring academia, bring industry, and bring farmers together, much like what AgriLife is, except it was a private thing. And so I did not know the blessing I had with all the exposure I had. And so this is a shot from a water tower I climbed up as a kid. It was rusted and it probably has fallen down by now, but we'd climb up in there. I was on the Daredevil group. We were part of the Daredevil Club. And you'd have to climb up to that water tower to be in it. And so I'm alive today to share this picture. So anyway, that's a shot of the farm. How did I add value to life, to my family, to the industry? So I'm going to go through just a little bit of my early career. I actually started out here at A&M in biomedical science. And so I did not want anything to do with agriculture. I was tired of chasing the chickens and feeding the cows and working in the garden because it's hard. It's a hard industry. And so I was going into biomedical science, wanted to be a doctor. And 2 years into my biomedical science, I kind of was walking around the MSc and they had all the student groups, showing all their activities. And I ran into the Hort group. Actually, it was called FOH, Floriculture, Ornamental Horticulture. And so I thought, this is cool. I'll join this because I like plants. And so I joined it, started working in the greenhouse, and I said, I kind of like this. Organic chemistry 2 came along and kicked my tail. And I took Dr. Reed's class, Hort 201. And so most everybody took that class, and it was a life changer for me. And so after that class and the horticulture club participation, I changed my major, got into horticulture, and haven't looked back. I participated in as many activities as I could without running myself ragged, but I also found some time to participate in extracurricular activities. And I just want to encourage everybody, regardless of your age in here, whether you're a student, whether you're retired or whatever, do something more than just your career to keep your sanity and to interact. And so I participated in the Horticulture Club, as I mentioned, several other groups and organizations, and participated in just some hobbies. I love to hike and camp and just get out in the outdoors, fish, hunt, you name it. That backpack weighed more than I did, and it probably still does. And I can't carry that backpack anymore. Stay in shape too. That's another thing I would tell my younger self is stay in shape, exercise, and I don't do what I need to do, but do what you need to do, because it definitely helps. And so in college, I got my undergraduate here. My emphasis was in greenhouse and nursery production. Then I got my master's here because I didn't know what I wanted to do. And really, I was like, I love horticulture, but I'm not sure what I want to do. I also like research and I just like learning. And so I got my master's, and my emphasis was in water remediation and focused on denitrification of irrigation runoff. And I used these, we call them bioreactors, and we got all these bacteria from the ponds and created this microbiome and ran water through it with nitrogen, and out of the end came clean water. And so I learned a lot about, I wouldn't say a lot, some about microbiology, but more just about some of the natural processes, and most importantly, the scientific method and the process of research. And then I had the opportunity to teach a little bit. I got to TA Dr. Reed's lab and really enjoyed that. By nature, I'm an introvert, and it's very difficult for me to teach and to be able to get up in front of people and to have conversations and interact. But by teaching and doing things like this, it forces me to kind of get out. And that's another thing that I've learned is no matter who you are, make yourself uncomfortable and do something on the other side, because it just makes you a little bit better and a little more well-rounded. Once I got out of college, finished with my master's, I really only had 4 jobs in my life. First was with the Extension Service, so AgriLife Extension. I worked down the Rio Grande Valley, lived in McAllen, worked in Edinburgh, and was the extension horticulturist down there for a couple of years and loved it. I learned a lot about urban horticulture, vegetable production, citrus production, etc. But my true love was in plant production. And so I ended up taking a job with Heinz Nurseries. Anybody remember Heinz Nurseries from the day? Yeah, a long time ago, huge nursery operation across the entire US. I forget the total revenue, 500 million or something like that. Big corporate group, very well run. A lot of good culture there as well. I was there for probably 12 years, kind of worked through the organization, Started out growing crops, became the color manager, became the technical manager, research and development, the general manager. And then I got a call from a headhunter. I was totally happy enjoying what I was doing, but a headhunter called and said, hey, we're looking for a general manager up in East Texas for a new nursery that is started, and they just made acquisitions up there, so we're looking for somebody. And so I moved over to Treetown, USA. Now, Everde, who's heard of them? There's a commonality between those last two companies too. And what's that commonality? Both went bankrupt, right? Now, Verde's in bankruptcy now, and hopefully they'll work through it. And actually, if any company will, I think they might. They've got really some good leadership there. But I'll talk about this point a little bit later. This industry's tough. And where finance and horticulture meet, that intersection's a sweet spot, and most people operate outside of that sweet spot, and the financial management side becomes very, very difficult. And it's not just large companies, it's mid-sized and small companies as well. So I had most of my experience, though, with big companies. Treetown USA, Verde was a multi-state company as well. And so, worked my way up through there and just really got up into the executive level. And I was traveling all the time. I had a new son, wasn't paying attention to my wife and my son, and it just became unsustainable. Another headhunter called me. And it just happened to be at the right time. Like, you know what, I'll listen. Actually, I always listen to the headhunters. You always want to listen, never want to close any doors and opportunities. But there was an opportunity here at Magnolia Gardens where I'm at now. And first it was one position. I was like, I can't do that. I can't move to this and leave this. So it ended up being to where they offered me a presidential role to basically be over the entire company and run both the tissue culture lab and the container division. And I said, you know what, that sounds attractive. And most importantly, I don't have to travel. I can see my wife and my son every evening. And I took the job. And so 6 years later, here I am at Magnolia Gardens Nursery. And Magnolia Gardens, we're also a nursery and we're also a tissue culture lab, 2 divisions. All told, we have about 180 acres of production. The nursery and the lab aren't far from here at all. Matter of fact, I invite everybody and anybody here to come at any time, take a look around. But we're about an hour away. Waller and Magnolia is where we're located. And I've got a few statistics. I'll talk about the nursery itself and the lab in just a bit, but I have a quick little video just to kind of whet your appetite a little bit and summarize what and who we are. See if this comes. So we have both divisions, and we're somewhat vertically integrated because of that. We use a lot of the tissue culture product that goes into the nursery, but in all reality, the majority of the tissue culture product sells to other growers, our competitors. But the nursery was actually founded secondarily. It was first founded with the tissue culture lab. The founder, the owner, original owner of it, had a tissue culture light bank at the foot of his bed in his bedroom and just kind of played around with a little makeshift hood. And, years later, we're producing, 3.5 million propagules and selling those. And so the owner unfortunately passed away last year. His name was Tommy Merrick. He had a brain aneurysm and didn't survive that. And so he built an outstanding nursery, an outstanding culture, just a good work ethic as well. And so he's sorely missed. But we focus a lot on culture at the organization. Matter of fact, probably more so than horticulture. And I know we had some discussions earlier over lunch just about the business and some of the challenges, and really most of the challenges are people related. They're not crop related. I mean, there are crop problems, don't get me wrong. But the most challenging ones that we find as horticulturalists to solve are the people challenges. So we've been spending a lot of time on our visions and values. I showed our purpose up there on the previous slide, and our purpose really is to provide inspiration and opportunity to have a more beautiful life. And when we think of beauty, we think of our ornamental plants. Everybody knows the beauty and joy that it brings to life, but really that's secondary to bring in the beauty and joy to our employees and to the people and making people recognize that they're part of something. And so we spend a lot of time focusing on that. We've rewritten our vision and our mission, just really being intentional about where we want to go and how we want to serve the world, the population, and our employees. And it's become something that's really been recognized by our employees. And I've had new employees come up and say, wow, I've never worked for a company that really cares like this. And it makes me feel good. It makes our managers and leaders feel good. And honestly, our goal is to build this family that's appreciated and that we can look back on from heaven 100 years later and their kids are working there as well. And so it's pretty exciting to have a family that supports that. We are a family business, and to have a team that supports that as well. Just some of our values. We have some unique values, I think. Principle is our top value, and principle just meaning we believe there's a higher power and a truth to be trusted. And that's our number one core value. Then we really focus on people. Grit, it's a hard industry. You got to work hard, right? And roll up your sleeves sometime. Innovation, meaning that innovation is not just technology, it's also learning how to use technology and constantly fail to become better. So we really push failure as a good thing. And then we want to be longstanding. Like I said, centuries beyond where we are now, we want to have this legacy that continues. So we spend a lot of time on that. The business itself, like I said, there's two divisions. Really, our mix is almost all ornamentals, but we do have some edibles at both divisions. We have sugarcane out at the Tissue Culture Lab, a fairly decent program there. We're wanting to expand our mix and become a little broader. At the container division, we service strictly Texas. All of our product stays within the state lines with a little bit of exception on outlying states. But we focus on Dallas, Fort Worth, Austin, San Antonio, and the Houston Metroplex areas. Tissue Culture Lab, we're shipping all over the world. Majority of it stays in the US, but we do have some international accounts as well. And like I said earlier, we're supplying our competitors with product. And the nice thing about that is it allows us to see some trends. When our competitors start cutting back, well, we know there's probably some supply issue out there. By the same token, if they're throttling up, there's probably an undersupply issue there. So it's kind of a good market intelligence strategy also. And on the container side, we sell to retailers, re-wholesalers, and landscapers, nothing to the direct public, so it's all wholesale only. You can see our acreage there is around 180 acres. All told, we have about 180 employees, plus 20 H2A workers. We started the H2A program 3 years ago, and it's kind of really saved our lives, if you will, just managing the peaks and managing some of our crop maintenance activities. Production volume, this is 1 gallon equivalent, so we produce around 3.81 million equivalents for sale at the container division. A 15 gallon is 15 units, right? So it's kind of our equivalent unit factor. I know, Charlie, you and I have had the conversation about equivalent unit costing and so forth, but we use equivalent units to speak terms. But in tissue culture, this is actual individual units. We sell about 3.4 million units, plugs, mostly all 72 cell plugs to the growers. And to get those 3.4 million units, though, we're cutting over 10 million propagules throughout the year. So just a few shots just about some of the things and the jobs and the activities that we perform at the nursery. This is our propagation department. We propagate 85% of our product internally. The other 15% we buy in just because we're not able to do it or the timing's wrong. We pot all of our product on a machine. So the far right over there is an agronomics potting machine. The exception is our large trees. We'll pot those by hand, but everything else is on the potting machinery there. But I think most folks have been to a nursery and seen the potting equipment and potting machinery. The most important thing is that propagation does a good job and grades that product. So when we get to the potting machine, it's just bullets going into the machine. That machine will run fast. You'll see the 1 gallon's passing about this fast. And if you don't have a good plug, you can't plant a good product. And so we do put a lot of focus on selecting and grading our product out. We have 6 growers at the container division and 1 grower at the tissue culture division. They're responsible for hitting these ready dates. We put a ready date on all of our crops, and our job is to hit those, or the grower's job is to hit those. If it's planted late, still got to hit the ready date. If it's planted early, you got to hold it. So that's a challenge. So it forces a lot of conversation and communication. We don't even do contract grows at the nursery, but we still want to have this integrity. So if and when we do contract grows, we can hit those dates reliably. The shipping is probably one of the most difficult and dangerous parts of the business. When I say dangerous, we have our own fleet. And so if there's one thing that makes me lose sleep at night, it's worrying about our drivers on the road. They've got 80,000 pounds of truck and freight, and if they're in an accident, it's a bad deal. On the flip side, that's been one of our value proposition points to our customers, is that we have probably one of the best delivery rates and services in the industry. We have awesome drivers, and they got a really good record. So some companies use third parties, we use some, but most of them are internal. We do deliver everything on racks, and that's another value proposition. A lot of companies stack the product, and you get a stacked load. One, it's difficult to unload, and two, a lot of products damaged. So we've invested, hundreds of thousands of dollars into racks, probably millions if I calculate it all up, into racks just to be able to service the customer. The tissue culture lab, I think most everybody knows about tissue culture in here in general. It's an in vitro process in a sterile environment. We're working with glasses. I'd have to work with a magnifying glass to see the propagules that we're working with, especially with initiation. If you've been to a lab, you've seen the medias. We use two different media types. One is a semi-solid agar with all of the nutrients and the hormones loaded up into that. The other container or vessel is bioreactors. And so we use several different bioreactor types with liquid media. The benefit of that liquid media is that you can change it out at any time and change your hormone and your nutrition level, at the change of a hose. Whereas the semi-solid, you've got to replace your propagules. So there's some shots of what comes out of those bioreactors. The benefit is you can do a lot at once. The con is you can ruin a lot at once. So you can contaminate this one vessel here, you're losing thousands of plants, versus if you contaminate a small baby jar, we call them baby jars because they're like baby food jars, you'll lose 10 or 20 plants. So definitely a lot more efficient, but a lot more sanitation risk there. This is some new crops we're working with, doing some bulbs, working with Southern Bulb Nursery on some of their unique bulbs that they're finding out there and wanting to ramp up production. That's one of our value propositions, is we can take a product and clean it up and get it to multiply and rapidly bring it into production, relatively rapidly. And then here's our primary crop, Nandina. We were talking earlier, isn't that an invasive crop? It is on the invasive list in some states, but that's the domestica, the seedling. All the ones that we do, and we have patents on many of these varieties, they're sterile. And so they're not going to be invasive. We're still trying to educate the public that it's not. And matter of fact, this is a super tough plant. You're not going to kill it with a drought. You're not going to kill it with a freeze. Insects aren't going to get it. Disease aren't going to get it. There's a lot of awesome attributes. But this is our bread and butter, and this is what the founder had at his bedpost when he was dreaming of this company. And then, research and development, we spend a lot of time researching new methodologies, new varieties, ways to make our process better. So we kind of come at the intersection of the science and then the production. Our goal, though, still, after all this work, is to have a place and a product that we can create for our customers that they can step back and enjoy. Take a breath, right? And so we kind of use this term, the Garden of Eden reimagined, right? How can we recreate a Garden of Eden? If you think of the Garden of Eden back in the day, it was a beautiful place, right? The world's not as beautiful as it used to be. Our goal is to get it back that way. Dr. Hall, you have several classes that talk about the psychological benefits of horticulture, right? The healing power of horticulture. This is something that the world really doesn't know enough about. Our plant's not just a product that you can buy and put in your yard and forget about it. It's something that's going to really bring healing and health to you. One, from its physical properties, and two, from its aesthetic properties. So We think that's something that needs more push, and I know we're trying to push that agenda as an industry. That's also going to allow us to probably get a better price for our product once people realize that they're truly better off by having plants in their yard than not. So our industry, it's a pretty big industry. And I think these numbers are a little bit updated, and Dr. Hall, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but it's north of 32 billion for sure, right? In the state. And so we're a grower. Is that right on Mark? Okay. We're a small part of it, 3.8 billion. Landscape and retail, you look at that, they got a lot more of the dollars flowing through it. And honestly, the growing side, not only is it a smaller chunk of the dollars, profitability typically is lowest at the beginning of the supply chain. And we're at the beginning of the supply chain. Can you make a decent living and enjoy your life financially? Absolutely. I'm not saying you can't, but it's hard work and it's tough to make that margin at the beginning of the supply chain. There's a lot of jobs. We employ a lot of people, and you know the 180 people we employ, if you put that into 40-hour equivalents, it's more like 200 and some odd people, because we put some long hours in, especially the field workers. In the spring, they're working 14-hour days. So a lot of different careers within our business. It's not just growing plants. It's not just the science. We've got technical support. We have HR, we have admin, we have sales and administration in the selling side. We have marketing, we have research and development, we have transportation, we have maintenance. Actually, the horticulture side, the technical horticulture side, is a small part of the people we hire. We do hire horticulturalists, but we also hire a lot of professionals in other parts of the business as well. And so a lot of people think, well, I can't go work for a nursery because I know nothing about plants. Good. We want you to be with us because we need your expertise in these other areas. We are not good marketers. We are not good advertisers. We are not good accountants. We are not good financial analysts. We're pretty weak in a lot of these areas. And so we need talent from outside of this industry. And that's also one of the things that I would suggest as students is to get some experience and some education and some training in those disciplines outside of horticulture. It's not just growing the plants. It's the business side and it's the people side as well. So just to kind of reiterate these points, I'm bringing it up here again. You always have the chance to change and adjust who you are, but you got to first know who you are. And I'm going to suggest something in here. We were talking a little bit earlier about this. Regardless, again, of your status, age, et cetera, take some of these tests that are out there. There's a DISC assessment you've heard of. We're talking about the Myers-Briggs, the Enneagram, all those different assessment tests. It kind of tells you a little bit about your behaviors, your passions, your tendencies, and some of your skills, your people and interaction skills. It tells you a lot about who you are. And this DISC assessment, we use one called Trimetrics. Cost about $300 to make the assessment in the report. Report's 65 pages. You get it and you read it and you go, oh my gosh, this tells me nothing about who I am because this is all wrong. And when I first read that, that was my belief, because some things hit me pretty hard. And I don't want to be that person. I don't have those tendencies. But then you start recognizing your interaction and your behaviors with others and you go, that darn thing was right. And so it really helps you know who you are and just how to interact with people. And there's people that are on the opposite end of the spectrum than you are. And if you don't know that, you're probably going to hit heads. So I just recommend taking one of these tests. There's some cheaper ones out there than the $300 one. You can get one for $10, I think. But the expensive one tells you a lot about who you are. So that's one of my kind of recommendations to my younger self. I would have taken one of these back in high school if I could have, and really started to learn more about who I am and was to shape my life better and find opportunities that fit me. You know, as a student and then as a graduate student, as a person in the career field, I would say get involved and attend a lot of these trade shows. I think a lot of y'all have been to some of these. Who's been to some of these trade shows up here? Student-wise, not many, right? And so get out there and go to these trade shows. TNLA, that's the one here in Texas. Every August, it's in San Antonio. In the future, I think it's going to be in Dallas. They're going to start rotating again through Houston. It's not far to get out. It's not expensive. You're going to see a lot of producers there, a lot of allied trade. There's some seminars as well. Really, really good. The best one probably is Cultivate. If you want some education plus to see a sampling of the industry, go to Cultivate in Ohio. And if you want to see a lot of the industry, go to Mance. That's up there in Baltimore. You're going to see probably one of the biggest shows in the country with folks from all over showing their wares. But go to those trade shows. There's one in Alabama called the Gulf State Shows, which is also good. Florida, FNGLA, TPIE is in Florida, and the Far West shows in Oregon. Go to at least one of those a year. If not, go to 2 or 3. You're able to network. You're able to see what's new out there, and it's worth every single penny. Then there's a lot of other groups. I just threw a few in here. You got the Master Gardener groups. Master Gardeners, a lot of them don't have the formal horticultural training, but they go through this program to learn, and they're very eager and very passionate, and they're going to share information, and they're going to have contacts amongst their group. So it's a good group to get involved with. Even is there still a student Master Gardener group here at A&M? There used to be one. No? No? Okay. I was thinking there was one still, or there was one that was starting. The student organizations I mentioned before, I mean, participate in as many of those as you can. You should be tired every morning when you wake up. And I see a few yawns here every now and then here. That's a good thing. That means you're burning the candle at both ends and taking advantage of this opportunity here. And internships. This is something that I kind of get a blank stare on sometimes, because I tell students, do as many as you can. Matter of fact, if you can graduate in 6 years instead of 4, do it, and take 4 internships or 5 internships, because where else are you going to get the opportunity to experience a company and have no strings attached? And where else are you going to get the opportunity to show yourself off and make an impression and possibly be hired without ever having to do an interview? Because a lot of interns end up getting hired through the program or after the program. So that's one thing I would have done different. I only did 1 internship. I loved it, and it was at the end of my career, and I should have did one every summer. So definitely do that and slow down your pace a little bit. In college, I'll talk a little bit more just about some things that were important to me. I mentioned the internships, also just working. Be a student worker or an industry worker. Get tired. It's going to allow you to get some experience and, again, meet some people. Talked about the club involvement, and then build relationships with faculty and staff. I think folks in here are doing that. And you guys are coming to this. You already have a connection. I think a lot of folks that aren't here probably don't do that. But it's an awesome network here. And the Aggie network goes a long way, believe it or not. Some people just kind of go, oh, yeah, whatever. I guarantee you have a ring and you walk around an airport anywhere in the US and there's another Aggie, they see that, you have an instant conversation. So it's a super strong network. Find a mentor. This is something that I can't stress enough. And I was blessed to actually have mentors that I didn't even realize were mentors until I look back on it. Find a mentor and be receptive to a mentor. And I say that for everybody here, no matter what stage of life you're in. And you can call them a mentor, a coach, a counselor. Counselor sometimes has a stigma to that name. Call them whatever you want, though. They're good for you. And I wish I would have known that earlier in life and taken more of a intentional tact on that versus just happenstance. I had some great mentors that, looking back, I should have really understood that they were mentoring me versus me just going, oh, wow, this is great, thank you. If you don't have one, look one up, find one. Actually, you can go online and find a strategy on how to find a mentor and how to use a mentor. So do that. Learn Spanish. If you're in this industry, teach yourself Spanish or get involved, because if you don't, you're going to be those now? Yeah. If not, sign up for them. They're free. Is it working?
Yes.
Okay. There's another one here I'll mention on the next slide, but I'll say it now. And it's kind of costly, but to me, it's worth every penny. The Harvard Business Review. Anybody subscribe to that? One. Everybody should raise their hand next time, at least from a business perspective and from a human development, self-development, cultural standpoints, an excellent publication. They send out some quick little emails too with little daily management tips, and their articles are outstanding. So probably one of the best publications I've come across just to help with management and leadership. And then there's a thing called a TNLA boot camp, which they started a few years ago. And if you're going to get into production horticulture and get into the nursery industry, it's kind of like a training for young entrants into the career. It's a great program that started here recently as well. And then I mentioned the Cultivate show and the education there. How am I doing on time? Am I doing okay? Okay. Uh-oh. I need to click the mouse again. There we go. The business side of things. So just a few kind of pointers and tips here. And when I say business, I'm talking about the production horticulture business, but really this applies to any group in my mind. Especially when it comes to the team and the cultural side, you got to build a good team. And before, I never really understood the value of a strong team. It's like, oh no, I can do it all myself, right? And that's the way a lot of us feel. But you got to have a good, solid team, and you got to have a good, solid culture. That's the number one thing. I was at a family business owners meeting 2 weeks ago. Johnny Carrabba spoke there. You know, he's the big Carrabba's chain founder. And he said the number one most important thing is culture with his team and his company. And everybody in their presentation said the same thing. And I believe it now because I see it. The first thing I put in here, though, is know your value proposition. Who has a definition of a value proposition? Anybody else?
How you value your own service product?
How your customer values your product and service, basically what distinguishes you from everybody else that keeps the customers coming back. You want to think about building a moat, you know, around your castle, right? That your competitors can't get in. So know your value proposition. What are you selling to your customer? And typically it's not just your product. It's a lot more than just your product. Diversify yourself, your business, your plant palette, et cetera. You can't be stuck on one customer. Matter of fact, you shouldn't have more than 15% of your business with one customer. If you do, you're probably going to be in a lot of trouble at some point. I already talked about learning Spanish. I'll repeat it again. I think that's super critical. In our industry, in our nursery industry, avoid PBS. It's not the broadcasting company. What's PBS? Pay by scan. So 25-ish years ago, this was kind of introduced to the horticulture industry by Home Depot. Basically, the deal was, hey, bring your plants to us and we'll pay you for them after it goes through the register. We'll give you control of the garden center. You can bring in whatever you want. That little key after it goes through the register is what sunk a lot of companies, because that meant that you didn't get paid unless a customer put it in their basket and paid for it through the register. If they didn't water that plant, if they didn't cover it when the freeze came or anything else, it died. Guess who ate it? You did. And so when that program was first developed, everybody said, oh, okay, we'll probably lose 5% or something. So we'll add 5% to our price, and let's do this because we're gonna get millions of dollars of business. What do you think the shrink rates were in those stores? Some crops, yes. Average was probably 20%. So you go in with a 5% price increase and lose 20% of the crop. So it sunk a lot of organizations. And there's still that pay-by-scan program out there. Lowe's is starting to do it now. If you have the right knowledge of your shrink and you have people that can take care of it and you get the right price, maybe it works, but there's a lot of failures there. The other comment I would say is scrutinize a venture capital relationship. Venture capital is getting dollars to start up your business or take a new venture. Awesome, Make sure you know the terms, make sure you understand the benefits that you're going to get and what you're going to have to give for it. I think there's a lot of good venture capital out there, but just be cautious with it and avoid private equity in this business. I mentioned Heinz and Averde. You look at ColorSpot, several other organizations, big companies over time. There was a lot of mid-sized groups as well. Got into private equity, and where are they today? They really struggle meeting those covenants and those expectations because most of them have a 3 to 5 year time horizon. Our industry doesn't work in those cycles. We can have 2 or 3 bad years. We have to have a long time horizon. I think there's some private equity groups out there that have kind of learned that now, and they're starting to take this 10, 20 year time horizon approach, and they've got a pretty good model. Are they going to stick by it? If so, I think it'll turn out. If not, I think there's going to be a lot of problems in the next 5 to 7 years with those as well. So anyway, that's just from a business perspective, something that really gets me to be cautious. And then avoid over leveraging. That's the problem with most any company, all companies that go bankrupt, right? It's a leveraging issue. You have too much debt, not enough revenue, and you can get pretty greedy in this industry. You have a great spring and just you sold everything and man, this is awesome. Let me go get some extra money from the bank and plant it. Matter of fact, I'm going to plant twice as much. And then next year you have half the season with twice as much inventory. Guess what? The bank still wants their money. And so you got to be patient and be cautious and not overzealous in your production and your leveraging. I mentioned the finance side, learn finance. It's something that we are pretty much adverse to as horticulturalists and scientists. Do it, learn it, because if you don't learn it the easy way, you will learn it the hard way, I promise. And so that's super important. On the personal side, this has been one that I've struggled with is leveraging delegation. Most everybody in here, if you get into the business world, you're going to be more than just a field worker on the line, planting a plant or pruning a plant. You're going to be leading people. You're going to be managing people. You're going to have people reporting to you. Build them up and leverage them, because otherwise you're going to micromanage and try to do it all yourself. You'll fail. You'll fail your family. You'll fail yourself. You'll be exhausted and you'll die a disgruntled person. So this is something that I've been learning to delegate because I've always been the hold it myself, be a micromanager person, and it really hasn't worked as well as it should. So that's a learning for me, absolutely. I mentioned the Harvard Business Review. If you haven't subscribed to it, do it. You're going to spend a couple $100 a year maybe, but you're going to get that out of it in the first month. Take advantage of AI. This is something that is for me now to tell myself because I don't know much about AI, but I guarantee over the next 20 years, it's going to be something that is just normal in business, and it's going to come to our business even more than what it is nowadays. So I know nothing about AI. I'm putting it on there to remind myself to learn more about it. Be cautious of it. I'm cautious of it. At some point, 30 years down the road, we might not be, but it's here to stay, and it's going to drive our lives, I think. And then have fun. That's something I struggle with too. I can be a pretty serious person, and so much so that other people don't have fun as well. But the older I get and the more I realize there's more to life than just what I'm doing in my work, is I become hopefully more fun and more enjoyable for my family and others. So have fun. This is some contact information. I think this slide deck will be published somewhere else, but I invite anybody to come out to the nursery at any time. Love to show you around and visit and introduce you to some of our other folks. And then the other thing I just wanted to encourage too is just, I talked about seeking a mentor, but also be a mentor. And start with the young kids too, right? There is a lot of just beauty in their inquisitive nature. They're honest, they're naive, and they are the ones that we can mold. And you can do that to older folks as well, but it's a lot easier to start with the children. But plant that seed, that seed will germinate over time, especially if you plant it with younger individuals. And so in general, mentor, be mentored, appreciate your family, and have fun. That's kind of the secrets that I found in life and career, and more so of having the fun and building relationships. There's more to it than just the horticulture side. I know some of the professors here and folks are going, wait a minute, this is my job. I'm supposed to teach horticulture. That's what it is. It's that plus everything else. So, just leave you with this slide here, just thinking of what we do as an industry and what we provide for the communities. Look at that. You take a little bit of a breath, and how do you feel? You feel good, right? If I was showing a prison up there, or bare walls, or a skyscraper, yeah, it'd look okay, maybe functional. But we create a lot of beauty in this world, and it just really connects us. So that's me, that's us, that's our company, that's my career, my learnings, and I'm open to any questions, challenging ones too. So give me some questions. Yes, sir.
What's your favorite plant?
Man, this was asked earlier, and I said, man, I don't know. I said the one that goes on the truck and is sold. And which means the best one for us now is Sunshine Ligustrum, because it's the hottest item we sell, and we get a good price and a good margin. Nice too. So I love that one. I like the edibles though too. I just have an affinity for edibles.
Brad, our previous speaker in this seminar series was less effusive about trade shows, kind of said his take was that trade shows maybe had their heyday, or maybe didn't offer the networking and business transaction aspect of it. Elaborate on that a little bit, and where I'm going with this is an extension. We're kind of in a sea change, trying to figure out whether people want to be at a venue, a training in person versus online. We just had a conference have to retool based on registration and go all virtual. Elaborate a little bit more on what the benefits are of these trade shows. You spoke kind of positively of them, and what your thoughts are on in-person versus virtual education.
Yeah. I talked about culture and the human element. You don't get that online. I mean, you can hide behind your screen. You can flip the camera off. You can be in your curlers and underwear. And you know what? That catches up to us, I think, at some point. I'm not to say it's bad. I mean, there's folks that can't make it. It's a good tool when you have to be extended. But when you don't have that excuse, and you're in person, you're building a relationship much better. You can also touch and feel things at a trade show. You can't touch and feel it virtually. Is there a place for virtual? Absolutely, especially when you're across the country, across the world. It is expensive to travel. To a trade show, you're going to spend a few $100 on the hotel. You're going to spend in the food, and put $750 into it. But I think what you get for it is worth it in the relationship and the ability to handle the products. And then two, the people that aren't there aren't getting information you are. So it's a competitive advantage. So I don't think they're going away. Some people say, I mean, we say it too, is we're not there to sell a product. We're not going to make money from this show physically by taking orders. It's not an order taking show anymore. It used to be. All the shows are not order taking. But if you're not there, people go, why aren't they there? What's happened? What's going on? Are they trying to save money? Are they going bankrupt? So there's that expectation to be there also. But to me, the reward comes later for exhibiting and attending.
Said, avoid private equity. This is gonna express my ignorance on the financial side. Could you explain that a little bit? What is private equity? How does it?
Yeah. So private equity, and I before had mentioned venture capital. And so the difference between those two is venture capital is somebody's typically going to come in and work with you to get your business started, give you some seed money and those kind of things. Private equity, typically it's a financial group. They'll come in and they're looking to basically take a business and give them some cash, infuse the cash to help them grow. In some cases, they're going to help them maybe reorganize or pay some debt down or something. But basically, you're getting a bucket of cash with intention that that investment is going to return for them better than what they could invest in bonds or stock market or whatever else. And so they'll come to you and say, here's $20 million. Let's go grow this business. And, they're expecting 10+% return on that. And typically their time horizon is very short because they'll work with a lot of industries and they'll turn around a business and infuse equity and build growth models that they can then go to market with in 3 years. And they're going to make 30, 40% on their money. That's what they're used to. In this industry, we haven't